Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to August's Designer Community Forum. We're excited to have you join us today. Thank you for being on the call. Today, we are talking about tagging logic and strategy. And so we are going to go through the agenda quickly for the next hour with each other today. So today we are going to go through and introduce you to the speakers that are going to be talking to you from the dealerships about tagging logic and strategy. And when we get into that topic, we're going to look at when to use tagging, how to use it, how it relates to packaging, examples, doing so in Canvas, as well as installation drawings and lessons learned. We will also have a Q&A at the end of our time together today. Sylvia, can you move on to the next slide a minute, please? I have one more thing. Thank you. So if you could please use the chat function in your Teams Live to share your interests. The first thing is, feel free to ask questions today, everybody. Please ask questions about the presentations. We're going to answer as many questions as we can before the end of the call while we have the speakers with us. And we'd also like to hear from you, what topics do you want to hear more about in the future? So September and beyond, what are the type of topics that would be really beneficial for you? And then how can we best share information with you and your team? What's the best way to do that? What do you like the best in terms of how Haworth shares information? Please share that with us in the chat. And then lastly, would you be interested in sharing your department's best practices with our entire group? And that means that once a month we're continuing to do best practice sharing in terms of projects. So if you have something that you would like to share that you think is really well done at your dealership, please let us know and we will include you in our upcoming calls. So with that, we're going to get started and I'd like to turn it over to Sylvia Munoz, who's going to introduce you to our speakers today. Sylvia.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm very excited about today's topic because the tagging and logic strategy didn't hit home till I worked at the dealership, and as a designer, then I moved into sales and then into installation. And it was until then that I realized how important this is, and I hope you get the same effect from our presentation today. And for that, we have three great designers that are going to present to us today. We have Nicole Helen from Fluid Interiors. We have Krista Tornaden from Encompass, and we have Kathy Friedrichsen from Price Modern. To get us started, we're going to start with Nicole Helen. And Nicole Helen works for Fluid Interiors in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She has been with the company for nearly 4 years as a senior project designer. In 2005, she graduated from Dakota County Technical College with a FIDER accreditation degree in interior design. And as a project manager at Fluid Interiors, she's involved with a project from start to finish. They're included in the initial meetings with the clients and complete punch walkthroughs at the end. They also do something great, that they provide the project closeout package delivered to the client that includes an as-built PDF drawings, all the warranty information, as well as the Ciro's website that links how-to videos for adjusting their chairs. Today, Nicole is going to cover the Fluid tagging standards, from pre-order process, tagging logic, color coding standards, to Fluid's lean process. With that, Nicole, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to start kind of at the beginning of how we process and go through our tagging installation to make sure that once it's time to install, that we are ready to go and our story is told to everybody involved at that point. So at the beginning, before we're going to order any project, we will sit down, the designer, the account executive, as well as our project manager. We're going to sit down and we're going to determine the installation phases, and this is going to be determined by the construction schedule as well as the size of the project. The account executive, the designer, and the PM will discuss how it's going to be installed and how we are going to plan those phasing. And then we're going to take that plan and we're going to involve our project coordinator to ensure the back-end details are created for order processing, such as delivery sims, making sure that things are coming in on time, and then in the order that we would like them to come into our warehouse as well. The project manager then is going to download the warehouse and our receiving department and how this is going to come in, so they have a foresight into what is to come, especially these large projects, so they can plan for the amount of product that will be coming into our warehouse. Next slide, please, Sylvia. So this just touches on our tagging logic. So area, tag 1 is our area identification. So this is our pre-installation organization. For example, we're going to tag things out for the product for a private office 348, for example, or conference 102. If we have a floor full of the same typical of the private office, we may just have a left hand and a right hand typical. So not everyone being, each and every office being tagged separately, we may lump those together as for typicals and the handedness. And then tag 2, this is where we're going to put in our phase, and we are also going to give a general product type. For example, it's phase 1 and it's a workstation. So and then we're going to use our color coded process, which I will talk about in a few slides, in our logic that we use here at Fluid. This again is our pre-installation organization. For example, P1WS, and then the hashtag, the color code R. That's how we're going to put those in there. So this is really important for the way our story is told once it's coming into the warehouse. So everybody knows the logic and they know what to look for, and they're not having to look for those small details. And then of course, tag 3 is where our panel types come in, and that's going to be used for our in-field installation identification. So this is kind of a full circle cycle here. It's what we do in CET and how that relates to a CIF, and how that CIF is used to be ordered, and then that order and how it's going to be received, and ultimately determining how our installation drawings are created and given to our service team in the field. So this is our color coding logic at Fluid. So we try to keep the same standard with every project regardless of size. So once the product is coming into our warehouse, our receiving staff knows, they can see right on the label. If it's red, they know it's workstation product. If it's green, they know it belongs to a private office or a conference room. And then if it's blue, then that's all of our seating. So we can rack and organize things accordingly. So next slide, please. So this is where the importance of our tagging comes into fruition when it comes into our receiving department. It tells our story. They know it's color coded. This one is a sample right from Hayward, so this doesn't follow Fluid's colors exactly, but you can get the gist. So the reason why this is important, especially for us at Fluid, because we do have our own warehouse, we do have our own receiving department. We are one big team, and we try to make sure that everything comes in. So the project is detailed to them as well, because being at the beginning of the project, me being the designer, all of this information is in my head, and it's very important for me to make sure that my story is told and the information flows downstream to those who have no context of the project until product is coming into our warehouse. So these tags help our warehouse have organized receiving. We rack product per order number. So as you can see, that is highlighted there. And then we're going to organize it by area. So there's when our visible tags, tag 1 and tag 2, come in. And we're also going to organize it by the product type. So that's where that color coding comes in. So the guys know that if it's red, they know it's workstation, and that will be shown here on the label, as you can see. And then this ultimately is going to give us an efficient product pull. we do something at Fluid that's called a lean process. We do a lot of pre-assembly in our warehouse, so products not going to site and our installers aren't having to spend the time on the job site deboxing and having all that trash on site. So this makes for installation to be a much faster process than it would be if it were all to come there. So that's why these tags for us are extremely important, because we do organize everything per these tags. So, and I just wanted to emphasize a little bit. So if you could just click, Sylvia, just emphasize on our lean process. This just gives you a visual on the difference between Fluid on the left-hand side. This is how, once product has come in and it's ready to go to a job site. So this has already been racked. It's already been organized per area, per project. And then we organize it where it's deboxed out. Everything's deboxed. We even pre-assemble a lot of our height adjustable tables in the warehouse so they can go to site, so they can just be set in place. So this shows a cart full of panel frames that will go to the correct area on a job site, and it's all ready to go. So the guys just need to take it off the cart, bring it to the area, take it off the cart, and start installing. Where on the right-hand side, this is kind of what you get if your project is being delivered to site, or if maybe you have a third-party installation team who's receiving your project and they're just going to bring it to site in this way. So then you have to spend all the time deboxing all of that, and then also accounting for all of that trash. So next slide, please. So now I wanted to get into an example of a project. So this is one of 3 floors of a project that we recently installed. We chose to break the floors out into 4 phases. So, and we ordered those phases separately. So like I said before, we rack things in our warehouse per order. So since phase 1 has a different order, that's what our guys are going to look at first, and then they'll go through the color coding and the areas and then rack it appropriately. So if, as we all know, a lot of times if it's a construction site project, we're not going to get a free and clear job site. So say this job, for example, they were ready to start installing some of the workstations in phase 2 prior to phase 1. And since we had the product in our warehouse already, they were able to say, nope, we have to start in phase 2 workstations because they're still installing lighting over in phase 1. So let's pull phase 2 first. So since we ordered it separately, we were able to efficiently pull that and not trying to sort the product in our warehouse to try to figure out what went where. So, and doing this, we ordered all of the chairs, any loose furniture at the end, because we all know that comes to the job site last anyway. So that came in after, and then it was organized and racked in a way that it was easily pulled, put on a truck, and then brought to site. So next, so this, I just want to also show you an example of the tagging that you do within CET and how that relates to your SIF, so you can see how that looks. So here we have, I showed a couple examples from that same project and how our tags look. So phase 1, how that looks in the SIF, the P1_conference #G. And that G is so important because that's what gives you the colors on your labels once they come into the warehouse. And another thing that we like to do as well, you'll see the first 2 lines in tag 2 is a BF #R. So we like to order our base feeds ahead of time because the electrician's always going to want them to be able to pre-wire before we're in there. So then all they need to do once we're done installing is do all our panel to panel connections. So if we order those base feeds separately, they can come in sooner. We can get those out to site and not have to wait for the entire project and all that product to come in. So next slide, please, Sylvia. So then this is just an example of how then those tags are shown into links. So it's pretty much a copy and paste, but how we have tag 1, we have tag 2 in our SIFs, but links translates that into an installation tag and a packaging tag. so that you are limited in how many tags you can have for that packaging tag, because the importance of that is they're going to take similar tags. So the P1 conference, they're going to try to package those types of same tags together. So we're not having one work surface because it was tagged completely separately, then 5 others, and they're coming in packaged separately that they can come in together. But because we're still giving it that green label, our warehouse knows that what type of product that is and what type of room that belongs to. So other than that, that's all I have, and that's Fluid's process that we try to live and breathe by on a daily basis. And if you have any questions, please type them in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicole. What really caught my eye on something you said, and I hope everybody else caught it, was that I noticed that when you order warranties and corrections, they're always purple. So that's great because the installers always know that's for corrections. I'm hearing an echo. Next up is Krista Tornaden. And Krista works for Encompass in Kansas City, Missouri. She is a senior project manager and has been with Encompass for almost the 9 years. In 2011, she graduated from Kansas State University. And in her responsibilities as a senior project manager, she helps other project managers at Encompass to grow and learn in their position and industry. And Krista's primary focus is on government projects from city to federal levels. And she assists customers with the design and the space planning and provides the complete specification and pricing to the customer. She also prepares and manages the orders, including and verifying the vendor acknowledgements and managing the delivery dates. She therefore manages the installation, and on the on-site coordination as well. So all the way to a complete punch and warranty post-installation. And today, Krista will cover the Encompass tagging standards, and she'll go over the tagging logic, the tagging in Canvas, and relate tagging to the install drawings, as well as the lessons learned. And with that, Krista, take it away.
All right, everybody. Like Sylvia said, I'm Krista with Encompass. I've been specializing in government for about 6 years now. And like she said, we kind of take projects start to finish. And one of the other things that I think is going to be important for you guys understanding kind of where our logic comes from is that we sub out the labor. So our projects sometimes will ship direct to site and sometimes will go to the warehouse. So it totally depends on the project, how many full trucks we're getting and what the customer wants. So I'm going to start out kind of talking about our logic and then how we apply the tags in Canvas. And then as we do that, how it relates back to the install drawings. And then I'm going to finish up with the lessons learned for you. So the first kind of step is figuring out how you're going to tag things. And for us, tag 1 is a typical or an area, which is generally dictated by the RFP or the designer. So a workstation 1, kind of what we'll see there. The tag 1 does print on the packaging label, and Hayworth will group multiple tag 1s within a carton. So just keep that in mind as you're doing your tagging, that you can get mixed cartons of tag 1s. And then tag 2 we use for the floor or the building, or if it's a smaller project, just the project name. That also prints on the label, but however, multiple tag 2s should not package together. So if you have floor 1 and floor 2 in your tag 2, those two should not package together. There's a max of 20 or 20 different variations of tag 2 on the each links order, and this is due to the fact that they don't package together. And if they were to allow kind of an unlimited amount of tags with that, you would have a very loose packed truck that was very difficult to offload. And then finally for tag 3, we use these with component groupings and for delivery group simulations, assignments, and links. Tag 3 does not print on the packaging label, which is why it works really well for sorting both in links and within your SIF, because the customer and the installation company does not really see that at all. And to kind of give you an idea on how this works with the scale or scope of a project, so your tag 2 is your largest scope, so your floor or your area or your building, kind of depending on the size of the project. And then your tag 1 dials into a little bit more detail. So in the example, it's outlined in blue there, so you've got the chair and the station and the lateral file kind of all tagged. And then your tag 3 dials down even more to the individual components of that tag 1. So the panels and power, surfaces or support, storage, that kind of thing. Sylvia, thank you. Okay, so within Canvas, there's a couple different ways to tag. So you can do the auto tagging, and then you can also do manual tagging. So in auto tagging, the auto tags function is within the Canvas tab under functions. And the auto tag that you see I have circled in red there, you can apply it with a drop-down box to any of the tags that you want, but we specifically use that for tag 3 so that it puts component labels on there. And then you can also assign panel type tags to tag 3 that directly relate back to your panel type elevations in Canvas. So when you assign that within links, if you go into the calculations view, which is the on the far right, you can see where it's automatically applied. The work surfaces, electrical structure, and then at the very bottom, that group is all of your different panel types. So once we have all of that assigned, we will use that when we're sorting our SIF, and then we will apply our tag 1 and tag 2 typically manually within CET, and that's under the tools and then part tagging. And you can see at the bottom left there the different options to select the tag. So you can do just a rectangle, a custom shape if it's kind of an odd shaped room. You can tag individual items like your seating, and then you can also make the selection that you want to apply that specific tag to. So once we have everything tagged and we export, we use the tagging to sort our SIF so we can do our double checks on everything, because we don't ever rely on Canvas to be accurate. So once we've gone through all of that, you've done your double checks, you've placed your order, design is all complete. You want that same logic to tie back into your installation drawings. So Sylvia, if you can go to the next slide. So your installation drawings, because that's what's going to print on the tag, should also mimic what you had your tagging assigned to. So in this case, it's the same example I showed earlier where we have the area labeled the CIB level 1, which would be my tag 2. And then my tag 1 is EO 123 in this case, which is the desk typical. So every component within that desk has that EO 123 tag on the box, along with the CIB level 2 on the tag 2. And then I happen to use color coding on this. So on the tag 2, I had a hashtag Y so that it coded it yellow. So in my drawings, I would highlight the area or the floor yellow, so as the guys saw that label coming off, they knew right where it went to. And that would help them get that truck offloaded a lot faster and not have to have as much staging space in one area. And it makes for a much more efficient distribution of product, which makes for a more efficient install on site. So Sylvia, if you want to go to the next slide. So I wanted to talk about an example of where tagging can also complicate your orders if you overcomplicate your tagging. So the more variations on tags that you have on tag 1 or tag 2, the more complicated your orders are going to get for several reasons. So the first one is that it creates more lines. So what should be 10 lines for this typical is now 20 because you've added another tag variation to it. And what happens is when you do that, you've got more shippables within links. And what a shippable is for that one conference table line, which is just one line in your SIF. It breaks out into 4 or 5 shippable lines within links. And so as you add more tags and you add more line items, you're adding more shippables to Hayworth because it doesn't recognize a tabletop is the same size as this tabletop and they can group them together into one shippable because you've tagged them different and the labels have to be different. And then Lynx also has a limit to how many shippables it can handle. So as you get more and more shippables, even if it's not more and more product per se, you're going to have to start splitting out your orders because it just can't handle it. So you've got more lines to check now, more acknowledgements to address in there, and it leaves a lot more room for error on your part with checking and verifying, and it also makes it a lot harder for your order entry and your admin team to track and trace all of that. So to show you an example of where I did this on a project and how it complicated the project in the long run outside of making it more difficult for me. It was on the same project, but a different phase. So it was nurse stations, and there was about 70 to 80 of these stations through the whole project. So 70, 80 stations altogether. And we had to separate those 70 to 80 stations out into 6 orders because of all the shippables that were created by the tagging. And as a result of that, we also had a ton of LTLs going to site because of all these different orders. So I would only have, a handful of panels shipping on a truck because I couldn't create an FTL because there wasn't enough product volume on that order. So my initial thought as I was going into this and why I did what I did was I was hoping that our installation team would be able to look at that tag 1 and bring the product right to that room because it was fairly specific to each room, even if it had the same typical number just because of site conditions. And then my tag 2, which I would probably not change going forward, but it was the color coding, the building number, and the floor that it went on. But my tag 1, like I said, I did the typical number and then the room number, hoping that they could bring it right into that space. But as I mentioned earlier, tag 1 will package together. So even though I had it tagged by the room number, I still had mixed cartons, so the guys weren't really able to bring the product right into that room that way. So it defeated the purpose of breaking it out so much and creating more orders and creating more shippables and adding to my LTLs. So if you do one more click for me, Sylvia. So in hindsight, I would have left tag 2 as it was with the color coding, the building number, and the floor. However, on tag 1, I would have just done the typical number or the area without the room number added on it because it did not benefit me in any way to do it that way. So I know hindsight's 20/20, but it's a good example of how you can overcomplicate your orders. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to use the chat and I will turn that back over to Sylvia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Krista. I really got out of your presentation. I really liked the tagging, the auto tagging on the Canvas tab. I was like, wow, I forgot about that. So thanks for reminding us about that. That was great. Well, our last presenter is Kathy Friedrichsen. Kathy works for Price Modern in Lanham, Maryland, and she's the director of creative design that has been with Price Modern for 29 years. Kathy graduated from Texas Women's University in 1980. Her responsibilities are like everything but the kitchen sink. Kathy had been the director of design department since 1991. This year her role slightly changed, but still does the day-to-day business of design. As a director, she still supports a sales team by whatever she needs to complete the sale, from floor plans to specifications and keeping up with the technology such as Bluescape, Ulio, VR, and also staying current with the product. Kathy will cover today what the Price Modern tagging standards, but really concentrate on the importance of tagging, the color tagging install drawing options, and tagging in Canvas with the additional tag 4 and tag 5. And she'll summarize with the links, screenshots, and labels. So with that, Kathy, welcome and take it away.
Kathy, I think you're on mute.
I apologize.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Anyway, as you can imagine, after being in the industry as many years as I have, I've seen my share of ups and downs. One thing about tagging is that the one thing I like about tagging is the connection between specification to order to install. It helps control and organize it through the entire process. The importance of tagging is to organize your installation because success is usually measured by how smooth the installation is. We're the last ones in and we're the last ones seen. Tagging starts primarily with the order entry as well as the installation requirements and expectations. You need to work closely with your coordinator, your project manager, and your sales team, as well as the installation team. They're the ones that will dictate and help you to control the installation. Construction seems to always be behind schedule, and that usually squeezes our timeline. So the more organized the shipment, the easier it is to achieve that installation date. I don't know about your dealerships, but sometimes we are installing as the carpet glue is drying. And the other trades using our furniture for installing light fixtures. Even if you have a clean building, this still is beneficial for a good install. Another benefit would be that there is an issue, if there's an issue on site where you are not staged correctly and have to make some adjustments, you might get additional installation fees from the installation company. Remember, we usually are the last trade in to the floor and blamed for any missteps. So the more organized we are, the better prepared we can be. At Price Modern, as we work as a team, we meet with the sales force, project management, and coordinators. We all work together to develop the best way to process the order and complete the installation with limited issues. This is where the tagging information is developed. Your job is to help them make it as clean as possible and have it go fast as possible and get in and out of the job. Next slide, please. Here's an example of how to color code with tagging. We use tag 2 for the larger spaces, as it's been stated before. We use tag 2 in this case, we use tag 2 for the first floor as noted as F1. Also notice that in tag 2 is where we place the color coding, as Nicole mentioned. We use tag 2 workstations and then added the hashtag Y for yellow. It then corresponds to the installation plan. You can place the hashtag Y anywhere within tag 2, the beginning, the middle, the end. We use tag 1, as we said before, for just locations on the floor, i.e. workstations, offices, conference rooms, etc. Notice the colors are coordinated with the tags. The yellow is for workstations, the green for offices, the purple for conference rooms. Through color coding, your project manager can quickly manage the location of the product as it comes off the truck. Do be aware that tag 2 is limited to a quantity of 20 different tags per order, so do be very careful not to exceed it. Next slide, please. Here I want to talk about several ways of creating and providing a key plan for installers. Here are some examples because not everyone has color plotters. Therefore, you may need to provide another way to convey the information from your floor plans. You can print it out in a color copier or PDF to give to the project management for a quick reference. To keep the product from going to the wrong locations, we have placed letters within the blocked areas like R for red. To achieve this, you can do it through CET by creating boxes and then manipulating the transparency fill. I know that not everybody has embraced CET, so if you have a legacy job or prefer AutoCAD, you can create the boxes and label them by color, like the top right hand, phase 1 red. Or if you have a color plotter, you can use the hatching and manipulate the transparency is there as well. And of course, assigned color codes correspond to your specification tags. You can tag from CET, as it's been shown before. When the calculations are generated, you would then replace the tagging information by adding a color designation, R for red, Y for yellow, G for green. Once the specs are exported to Project Matrix. But actually there is a 7th color, and it's black. Next slide, please. The 7th color is black, which is what is sent out when you do not designate a color on your label. Notice that tag 1 and tag 2 on the location of the label. Price Modern, like Nicole and Krista mentioned before, tag 1 should be used for smaller locations. We use it for offices, conference rooms, reception, or furniture tags such as CH1, TB1, etc. Tag 2 should be for the larger areas, full floors, large suites, or vaults. Tag 3 is interesting because tag 3, we do use it normally, and AutoCAD and CET only put your panel types in tag 3. But in tag 3 let me back up. Tag 3 will show up on links, which helps our coordinators to organize the specs. So I'll go a little bit further down as to how I make these changes. But tag 3 is for organization and sorting. It is helpful when needing to arrange the shipment of frames, tiles, electrical, etc. Notice when Krista mentioned tag 3 not shown on the carton label. Now, how does the color coding translate to the carton label? Next, thank you. This is where the color comes on the label. Color coding is actually a cost savings during the product staging on the job site. Click. Thank you. Because there is less time spent trying to find the correct location for the product for staging as it comes off the truck. Price Modern does a lot of direct shipments, and this is important to have as much information up front. Notice the R on tag 2. Here is a fun fact. Did you know that the letter designation was added for people who were colorblind, which it usually goes through, it's usually in men, and men are usually doing our installation, so it was a smart move. Hayworth did not leave anything to chance. We use tag 3 for the coordination and internal sorting. For example, this is where I was speaking of. After it goes through links and we get the delivery simulation, links delivery simulation done, and know how many trucks will be needed, we then use tag 3 for the coordinator to then sort the order by using information in tag 3. For example, panel frames, panel tiles, panel connectors, etc. Because CET and AutoCAD both use tag 3 for their panel types, you will have to replace them with an information from your coordinators, whatever your information your coordinator needs to sort for order sequencing. I will have to save my SIF over because I don't want to disturb my panel types, so I'll keep that as a reference only. And then I will sort hers, or the coordinator's specs, by part number, and then I'll have them in blocks, and then I can overwrite my tag 3 with panel frames, panel tiles, etc. Because, sorry, next slide, please. So tag 4 and tag 5 would be great if we could do it there, but if you use tag 4 and 5 to place the information of panel frames, panel types, that is something that you would have to work with the coordinator directly, because that will not be shown up it will not come back in links. So tag 4 and tag 5 is for the design department to use to double check specs, general use, and this is how tag 4 and 5, sorry, oh, there it is. You can use these tags to help coordinate, but you will have to work closely with them because links, like I said, does not recognize these tags. Next slide. Tag 4. Tag 4 is used as you can use, like I said, you can use it for panel types for checking. Like I said, CET and AutoCAD, which I would love for CET to come out and let us do the tag 4 within the export. The panel types are used, sorting, subtotaling, sales notes, anything that you need to give information to the coordinator, the installer, etc., because they will see these tags. Next slide, please. Thank you. CET and AutoCAD, but once you have a clean order and are ready to order, the delivery group simulation is done. I will sort the SIF by part numbers, get the product into groups, then populate the tag 3 with the information so that the coordinator can easily dictate that each category of tag shippables are required. Tagging can be started and done in CET using part tagging to coordinate with the colors that will appear on the carton labels, carton tag, sorry. Make sure that you place it in the correct tag. Next slide. In summary, it is important to have a clean order, and tags should coordinate with delivery group / shipsets to assure an organized shipment and installation. Here's an example of what Krista mentioned about shippable line items. Shown here are 2 dealer line items, which in SAP will have a total of 14 line items for just 2 items. Links delivery simulations will help you to know where to cut off the requested staggered dates. Next slide. If you're in links, granted, we don't do this much in design, it's really in the coordinators section, but if you're working, as I said, you do work very closely with them, you can click on, by clicking this little arrow, you can then see where the shippable items are. Next slide. Here's how your tags translate to the labels. Tag 1, which is on links, is your installation tag, which has a maximum of 15 characters, no limit to tag types, and does appear on your carton label. Tag 2, which on links is your packaging tag, which has a maximum of 40 characters, limited to 20 tag types, and does appear on your carton label. Tag 3, which on links is general tag, which has a maximum of 40 characters, no limit on tag types, and does not appear in your carton. On the last helpful tip is to use the filter under the packaging type. Over to the right. Thank you. Because I'm the last presenter, I felt it important that this message got across. If you can plan ahead, stay involved with the team, you will have a much better installation and will leave looking professional and organized, and the client satisfied and happy. I hope this was helpful. I also want to thank Hayworth's team for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I really like this last slide because it really summarizes everything that was said by all three. So that's a good takeaway slide. I also want to add that there is a document that's going to be added to the library. That's this best practice document on tagging. So we'll have that along with the PowerPoint and the recording posted afterwards. And I want to remind you that that there is a Canvas tagging video in the library that you can reference as well. And so be sure to leave us a comment of maybe one thing that you got out of today's call, or that you're going to do different because of some of the best practices and items that the three designers shared with us that was worth, and so we could see if it was worth your time. I do want to thank Nicole, Krista, and Kathy for their time invested in these presentations. So, and especially to all of you for listening, and then I sincerely thank you for everything you do. So with that, I'll turn it over to my boss, Becky. Becky, are you muted?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. We are going to go through just some housekeeping things as we move forward, and then we'll hit all of your questions that you all asked while we were going through our presentations. So the first thing I want to talk about is some additional free virtual learning opportunities. And as usual, you can register for these on the center. It's learning.hayworth.com. And there's two that we are offering right now. The first is the Compose Connections Specification Virtual Instructor-Led Training. That's a mouthful, but good one. And the second is Screens. So this is a screen specification course that is also virtual. Right now we have 3 offerings for each, and we will continue to hold them as much as you guys need them. So if you need them, please register. If they are full, please let us know, and we will continue to add dates so that you can all get in. We are looking at additional products moving forward to help you continue to specify with specific products moving forward from Hayworth. So if there's anything that anyone needs in terms of specific products, please let us know, and we will add that to our list and add that to our priorities. Okay. Next. Our next call in September is going to be on project management, specifically how dealer teams, both large and small, manage projects, how they track them, how they apply fees, and how you stay lean and efficient. And there's a lot more that's coming with that, but please join us on Thursday, September 17 at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard to join us for project management. And additionally, if you have any projects of the month that you would like to be highlighted here, please let us know and email us. and we'd be happy to add that to our call. If you know of someone that is not being invited to this call and you would like them to be, please make sure you're checking with your dealer admin administrator and make sure that you are registered under their designer persona in the dealer admin tool within Hayworth. Okay? So next, we're going to go through some questions, and thankfully we have a little bit of time left because I think we have a lot that we would like to cover, and I'm going to kind of go through them as we went through each presenter. So Nicole, we're going to start with you, and if either Krista or Kathy have any answers as well, please chime in. But some of the questions that came in, let's start with you, Nicole. The first was, how do you differentiate a project with multiple floors with the model that you presented?
On our back end, we will have, so we have a project number, a main project number for this, for a specific project. But then if we order them separately, we'll always have a 3 numeric code at the end, like a .001 and a .002 after the main project number. So this is specific, obviously, to Fluid, but that's how we differentiate it. And then once it's processed and they're ordered separately, we'll have different order numbers from Hayworth based on how we submitted those for order. So that's how we're going to differentiate between those multiple floors. And on our end, we know that for this one, the 3rd floor has a main project number, the same for all phases, and then just separated out with the .001. And then the 2nd floor had a different main project number. So it's a back end detail that's kind of would be exclusive to how you function and how you do those things. But that's how we do it at Fluid.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, next, on large projects, we tagged and color coded, and when the product arrived at site, the tag to field had a note that said see packing list. So the question is, are the tagging notes that were on the packing list but not on the product cartons? How do we avoid this? Anybody have an answer to that?
I do not. Yeah, I would think maybe was there too many characters? Because if you have more than 20 different tags for tag 2, links will error out. It'll tell you that there's too many, but maybe your characters, maybe they got cut off if you had too many. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Okay, thank you.
This is Sylvia. Can I ask the person who asked this question if they could email me a picture of the documents of what happened, please? I'd really appreciate it so we could look into it.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, Nicole, on your presentation, one of the designers calling in said that the hashtag G indicates the color coding in the tag, like i.e. green label. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. And then this is for everyone. Has anyone else had an issue with exporting from Canvas to project spec where the tags do not come over in the correct tag, and how to overcome that?
I responded on there, and
okay,
one
great.
thing, but just to reiterate, if not everybody's looking at that, when you're exporting, you have an option of what type of document you're exporting. So if you're documenting or you're exporting to a CIF, sometimes if you're just doing a project spec CIF, sometimes those tags can get, it's more or less like a CET glitch, but you want to make sure for your Hayworth things, you want to be exporting a Hayworth CIF and not just a project, because there you can decide if you want it to be an XML or whatever type of document that you need, but just to if you're doing it as a CIF, to make sure that you're exporting a Hayworth CIF. And also going back into the auto tags and the panel tags that we all touched on briefly, to make sure that those are correct, that because sometimes somebody may have made a default within your company of what those should come up as. Our default doesn't have any. I always have to go in and change it. So just make sure that, you want to check those before you're zipping out to make sure that your tags are going in the appropriate spot.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicole.
I also
ahead,
got
Sylvia.
I also got another response that yes, Canvas is aware of it and are working on that
Okay.
situation. And in the future, never mind. Okay, so yeah, so they are working on it. They do know about it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Krista, we have some questions that pertain to your presentation. How do you tag your ceiling track different from your walls in CET? We usually use area tags versus individual tags. Which do you use for those other items?
I don't do a whole lot in walls, but typically if I'm going to change my tagging like that, I will go ahead and export it with the tagging that I need. And then when I load that XML into CET, you can affect the tagging in there, or into links, I'm sorry. You can affect it in there.
Okay, thank you. And then how do you manage when you color code tag and the entire skid comes mixed? Do you sort at the warehouse or on site?
That depends on where it was delivered. So if it's delivered direct to site, we're gonna have to sort it direct on site. If it comes at the warehouse, a lot of the times the guys will kind of work through that product themselves to get it organized in the way that they want it to go over. Color coding generally should match. We know it happens, as we heard on the question above, with the tag not printing and the color coding not showing, even though they had that on there. But 99% of the time, you shouldn't have that issue unless it's little parts and pieces like hardware.
Okay, thank you. And before we move on, there was a response to the CET to SIF tagging question earlier. This person said also have them make sure that the reconfigure options are at the bottom of the tagging order. Otherwise, tag 1s will be moved to tag 2, tags 2 will move to tag 3, etc. So just a quick note on that last one. Okay, so Krista, again with you, with the BOM sorted, is there a way to tag in the BOM?
I guess that depends on whether you're talking about within CET or once you export it to the SIF. I don't think that there is a way to manually enter it into your calculations view within CET, but you can once it's exported into your SIF and sorted the way you want it to.
Actually, that's kind of what I was kind of going through too. She's right. Calculations, you can't do it, but once you export it into SIF, you can do edit replace, you can manipulate the tags that way.
Great, thank you. All right, one last one, Krista. How would you show the room number on the order if taken off tag 1?
So you wouldn't. And this is in reference, I think, to that lessons learned. With the tag 1, because it grouped together like that, there was no point in having it because it didn't show on the label anyway. So if I were to take it off of tag 1, it wouldn't have shown on the packaging label, but I wouldn't have had as many orders. And when it arrived to site, it still mixed cartons, and so it didn't print anyway. So it was an added step and an added complication that wasn't needed. You could show it, I guess, if you needed a way to help your install team with that on site, would be to have good highlighted drawings and have good explanations in your install drawings to get the product where it needed to go.
Great, thank you. Kathy, there was a question for you on why is there a limit placed on tag 2? That
I don't know. It's a Hayworth. I'm not going to say it's not a Hayworth issue, but that was dictated to us by Hayworth.
Correct.
And the reasoning for that kind of ties back to the fact that Hayworth generally will not group your tag 2s together. So what happens is if you get more than 20, which where 20 came from, I'm not entirely sure, but they set that limit specifically so that you wouldn't have a truck full of loose pieces, so that it would palletize together. They could package multiple parts together.
Thank you.
Understand, thank you. Okay, let's go through a couple other things here. Someone asked here, does anyone else have an issue with eManage? Tag 2 does not import into BOMs. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Any of the presenters?
What was the question?
They have an issue with eManage, and it says tag 2 does not import into our BOMs.
I'm not really sure what eManage is. I've never done that, but
Okay.
when you sift out through AutoCAD and when you have calculations through CET, the only tags that are used for panels is tag 3. So 1 and 2, you could do it by area. So I'm not really sure what the
The eManage is their ordering software. So we use
Okay.
Team. eManage is one that we looked at one point, which is the reason I know. And do either of you use eManage or do you use another program for your ordering? No.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. So that'll have to be something they send back to eManage. It sounds like a software issue.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. For Canvas to project spec, this is just a comment so I can move on. It wasn't a question, I apologize. Next question. If your words are the same for tag 2, but your colors are different, will cartons be mixed? Anybody?
Good question. I don't know.
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
understand it really.
No.
No, I wouldn't think so because it's still a different tag in the system. It still recognizes a different digit there.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, and someone wrote in about the answer to the C packing list when we kind of talked about that at the beginning of the question time. They said it's due to the steel plant SAP upgrade. She was told by Hayworth that the plant does not have the upgraded tagging right now. Sylvia, does that sound familiar?
No, but it makes sense now.
Okay.
When they said that.
Let's see, last one, it says, I don't think this is a question, but it just says for tagging ceiling track, typically this is done by filtering the calculations dialog box for the parts. Okay, I believe that's all the questions that we have. Katrina, can you tell if I missed anything?
No, Becky, that looks like everything we received.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, everybody, you have a gift of time of 2 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to see you at the September call for project management. And again, remember that this call is being recorded and you can reference it again on the library, as well as the information on tagging that Sylvia noted earlier. And we will also send out the link to the recording as well as in written form, the answers to these questions. So with that, we wish you a wonderful day and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.